We out of left field, it's time to get real with all the juicy hot topics that bring appeal. Like who's a Hall of Famer and who's the best team. Number one up on the power ranking, that's a prestige. Man, the outfield is mine, I'm calling left center. My name is Danny Acker, name that you should all remember. Yoni, who you bringing on? Who's the guest spot? They better be bringing the A game. Come on, let's talk.
What's up, boys? 2025. The summer is here already. Quickest turnover from draft to first game day. First game day is actually tomorrow. Draft was just on Thursday. Welcome, boys. Welcome back. How's it going?
Good, doing good. Excited for tomorrow.
Shit, how was
We're
the
all
offseason?
Off
Good,
season.
man. The recession is real. I'm out here driving my Uber tonight, trying to pick up Lauren Crane on the street or
I
something.
love how you say it before Crane can get to you.
You know, can't let him win.
Then he gets rid of them.
We had an amazing draft night, and for the first time, as long as I can remember, blockbuster trade. Not only a blockbuster trade, but like there were a few trades, but
Good trade.
one stood out over the rest. I'd like to talk about that just to get that out of the way right from the get-go. Shiv, you drafted Portnoy. He was so happy and excited to come to your team. All smiles, was like anticipating the moment he was drafted, and it lasted maybe what, 2 rounds? Was it a round?
Yeah, I mean, maybe not even. 'Cause, you know, I I felt bad. Like I was super excited to play with Portnoy. I've always wanted to play with Portnoy. We drafted him. There was lots of hugging and clapping from everyone at the table.
Everyone was so
And
excited.
then yeah, we were all excited. And then I got the wave over from Hirsch, and I guess they were looking to get someone who they thought could play a position, and they offered me a trade. And it's it's nothing against Portnoy, but I'm not going to reveal my actual age, but I've known Jesse Shea for 30 plus years. So for me to get a chance to play with Jess was an opportunity I had to take. So yeah, I felt bad for Portnoy, but I know he's happy with where he ended up, and now he can give me a stare down every time he gets me out all year and say, "See, should have kept me."
For those people who weren't part of the trade, Shiv, go through it. Give us a little rundown of what the trade was.
So I traded Portnoy and Lauren Crane to Hirsch for Jesse Shea, and at the time was an unpicked player. So basically, he said, "You take my next pick in the 10th round." So what I told him was, I want to see what's there in the 10th round, and basically, I said, if Lino is there, then I'll do the trade. And sure enough, when the pick came around, Lino was there. So it ended up being Jesse Shea and Lino for Lauren Crane and Portnoy.
So now, because of that trade, Lino moves in. Well, Jesse Shea was a 6, right?
Jesse Shea was a 6, but they become my 8-9.
And Crane turns into the 6.
Crane turns into the 6.
And
Well,
Portnoy
yeah,
does
He's
that.
actually the 10th.
I guess Portnoy actually turns into the 6 because you can't take a pitcher in the 10th. So Portnoy 6th round pitcher, so he should be honored.
There we go.
I upped his draft round. He can mention that on his next podcast or something.
It gives him a lot of bulletin board material for the year, right?
Yeah, I gave him motivation, and Portnoy made the joke that Shane is the one who wanted the trade because Shane always claims that he smashes Portnoy, so his batting average would have taken a 200-point hit if we had to have Portnoy on our team. So maybe it was all Shane at the end of the day.
Wow. Well, listen, it's always fun. It's always fun to come to the draft room and see a blockbuster trade that no one saw coming. Well, at least
I'll say this. The last time I made a trade in the draft room, the team finished first and lost in Game 5 of the finals to you two wonderful gentlemen.
There's other little trades at the draft. I was kind of like emceeing the draft or whatnot. I needed a sheet. I was so confused whose pick was where, and this is traded. It was I needed a sheet and a pen, so it was a fun time.
I'll get my trade out of the way also. We had a trade in the 9th round. We were planning on taking Kadanoff Is it Jeff? Is that his name?
Jeff. Yeah, Jeff.
Jeff Kadanoff, who I've seen play before, and the guy is solid hitter. He gets on base, singles hitter, but he gets on base quite
Jeff's a
often.
nice player. He's
And
actually a
he's a
very good player.
very decent outfielder. So I was a little upset to get rid of him, but I think Patty made it clear that he really wanted Jeff on his team, and so we
Yeah.
kind of struck a deal to allow Caddy to go to that team because we really wanted to take him. We ended up taking Patrizzi in that ninth round pick. As a trade, we gave them Kadanoff, and they were to give us their first 12. We ended up taking Berryhill, and they ended up getting Bloomer, which is a completely different story on its own.
We can get into that later. Yeah, look, I think you did the right thing. Like, it's nice for Mitch to get to play with his brother, and like I think in other years we probably would have linked them, right? But I guess because Epstein's team already had 3 captains when everyone else had 2, like adding, we didn't want to turn them into the mother truckers and give them 7 captains, so we had to keep that under control.
Bogle, for the first time in years, you are taking PSB and your talents elsewhere.
Yeah.
You
I'm
moved
very
on.
excited. I moved on
to Barth, to Mr. Barth, and you were very happy with the way they drafted. Talk to me a little bit about your draft.
Yeah. So my draft was their draft. I didn't do anything. I was very impressed with Barth and Clem. Pretty much every round they would go there. You know, they'd say we're thinking about this guy and this guy, and I'm like, yeah, that's the 2 exact guys I'd be thinking about. So
Yeah, I thought they did a great job too.
they did a great job. The team is very well balanced. Honestly, like they don't need me. They didn't need me, and I thought they did a great job. And you know, they're texting me a bit here and there, and they're totally like premier captains already. So I'm sort of just there to help if they need. But honestly, they did a great job.
Bart's been captaining teams in Côte St. Luc since Cleverly was in diapers.
There we go. That's for sure. If we can, I'd like to go through every team quickly, just briefly go through positives, highs and lows, what you think about the team, and if you have nothing to say on it, great. We'll move on from it, but I'm sure we have something to say about every team. We'll start with the first pick of the draft. Were you guys shocked? I know you found out the day before, but were you shocked that Gelbart was going for Mally and Fixman?
No, I mean, I told them after the tryout, I don't know how you don't take them. So I wasn't shocked at all. I thought it was the right move.
What were their options?
I mean, it was pretty much
right?
them or Darren. So
and I think Darren's probably the best individual player in the league, but I just think the value of Fixman at 2.8 was too great to pass. And you know, it's a bit of a shortstop crisis in the league at the moment. So getting your guy in the first round and also getting a guy who could be a shortstop in the league as well in Fixman, so gives them a lot of versatility. So I think they made the right choice, despite, you know, I think Darren is open draft, nobody linked. Darren goes 1-1, but I think in this case it was the right decision.
Do you think that they had any reservations with the fact that if they take Mally and Fixman, they don't pick at all for the last 3 rounds of the draft?
no, I mean they didn't pick anyways the last 2, and you don't pick the last 12 anyways. It's given to you, so
Yeah.
it would have been no difference.
Okay. So
I do want to see Yaron handle those throws from Mally, though. I think that's going to be something to watch in the early stages of the season.
good thing about it is
something to listen to.
the good thing about it is Yaron has some height, and a tall target is good for Mally.
I think he'll get used to it, but I think Mally's ball's got a lot of movement on it when he's backhand and then just firing it across the infield. I think it'll take Yaron a little time to get accustomed to that, but we'll see.
If you were to give I want a drafting grade from both of you. It could be A to F.
Letter? Okay.
Letter.
Mitch, you want to go first?
For who? For the
Gelbart.
team?
Yeah.
Gelbart? I think they're fine. I mean, I would say somewhere maybe B.
B.
I like a B there. I think they're top of the draft. They got a lot of really good guys: Fixman, Mally, Talk, Rose. We'll just have to see how they navigate the bottom. Like I said, Yaron hasn't played a full season of first base in a long time, and I guess with Kev there, like he's going to need to at least give them 5 innings every game at first base. So I think that'll be obviously Elan hurt himself pretty bad at the end of the last year, so we'll have to see how he's feeling. but I like a
I
B
wasn't
there,
at
strong B.
I wasn't at the tryouts or anything like that. Tell me about Adler in eight.
I think
Yeah,
that's
actually, that
about
was
where
good
we
value.
saw. Yeah, I think it's
I
about
think
where we
even better.
saw it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, he's a young kid. Looks like he had potential. Could improve. But I thought more or less he was going to go 7, 8, something like that.
And
Yeah.
Rose playing full-time infield, does that hurt them at all?
I think their plan is to move him around more than that. I know he says he only wants to play corner infielder, but I think he was open to moving around a bit. So I don't know if they finally concluded, but I know before the draft, I think there was a quick phone call, and he said he'd be willing to play more than just corner infield.
All right.
My understanding.
Moving on to the next team, we have Team Gal. Now, Gal every year seems to have some superstar fall into his lap. Last year, he had Emil fall into his lap. It wasn't supposed to happen. It did. This year, Buckman at 2 falling into his lap. Tell me a little bit about his draft.
Like
Yeah, go Mitch.
go for all yours. I had the
Yeah,
last one.
I, yeah, for sure. I mean, I think, I guess we'll get into this when we talk about the next team. I think, Buckman should have obviously gone before. He's clearly the best hitter, best player that's ever played in this league. I guess just the fact that he, doesn't really play shortstop or center field kind of causes him to fall in some drafts. And I think there's always the fear, like, oh, I'm going to draft him, but all he's going to do is get walked every time he comes up, and I'm not going to get to take advantage of what he does best. So I guess that's the reason why he ends up in the second round. And I think for Gallo is a tough decision, right? Because he's a pitcher and a 3. So it's like, okay, wait a second. Like through my first 3 picks here, all I have, and again, like Brad Buckman can certainly play shortstop, but based on, how things project, all he really had was that one sort of cornerstone defensive player. I think he did a nice job, in the 4, 5, 6 to sort of, with Slep and Aronovich and Mann, like kind of versatile guys, good defenders to try to balance that out a little bit. Yeah, Gal does a good job with the draft usually every year, I find. We'll see how it works out. I think with Eric protecting Buckman, it's going to be a bit of a tougher decision to walk him all the time. I still think it'll probably happen in key moments just because, part of Eric's game is that he runs really well. And I guess having Brad on the bases doesn't totally take that away, but it takes away from it a little bit.
I agree. So he had I find he has a very good front-loaded team. We're looking at the backload, the second half of the team, Darren, who I'm a big fan of, Rosenthal. But then you have Rosenshine, Rapkin, Frankel, Evan Rosenthal, and Glenn. Glenn, who I'm assuming is going to be playing catcher for the team. Do you think that Gal's team is well-rounded enough to be able to stick to the top of the league like he usually is?
I mean, I do, but Mitch, go ahead.
I don't love their team on paper. I mean, I don't hate it. Like if you're asking me, they're great. I'd think definitely worse than a B. I think taking Brad Buckman's great, but it also sort of forces you to take other people that maybe you have to take someone a little bit earlier just because of that. So I think he sort of had forced his hand into taking sort of players earlier that he had to. So we'll see. Paper is different than on the field, but on paper today,
Yeah.
I don't think it's really a team that, in my opinion, will really compete. But you never know. And there's also the Gal factor where Gal makes a big difference. I think he's definitely the best pitcher, so he can make a big difference in the game.
Yeah, I'm curious how they line up, right? So, like, for me, if that's my team, I think Eric kind of needs to be the left center fielder, and I think you have options of guys that he can sort of cycle through at shortstop, whether it's Mann, whether it's Buckman, whether it's Slep. But I think you kind of need to take Eric on that team and put him in left center field. Not that Diego isn't great, because he is, but I think having like a guy who's played for years in left center field, you kind of need that guy to position guys and just be that sort of the one who goes after every ball that's in the air. And, Eric's obviously that guy. So but I'm curious how they'll line up.
Give me a grade for the Flint Tropics, Shiv.
They're B for me. Again, like we're talking about the bottom of the draft. I don't know that it's any different than any other team. I think, I'm not, and it's not saying these guys are bad. It's the way the draft works is you go from the best players in the league down, and I don't see it as a huge problem. I think if he figures out his defense, to Mitch's points, with Gal on the mound, they'll always be competitive. So yeah, they're a B for me.
Mitch, grade
Probably go somewhere like C plus.
C plus. Moving on, Fogel, your old team, Jared Blumenthal.
Like
First
my
time
old
you're
team.
not with him in a couple years.
Yeah, it's like my old team, old team.
Old team. That's it. And now
Yeah.
their team Ezerzer taking
Yeah.
on the new Ezerzer name. Tell me a little bit about what you think about their draft.
I think it's okay. I think it's I'd probably rate it sort of like the B. I think the bottom's there may be some speed issues, but like Jared, Jay Burke, R. Burke is going to be a scary top four that's going to score a lot of runs. Outside of that, I think there may be a little bit of a struggle here and there, but I think they'll compete. To me, on paper, it's not a team that I think is going to win it all, but I think they're sort of going to be middle of the pack. Like I find a lot of there's no one really that sticks out to me. And I guess we'll get there, but I find the draft was pretty equal for the most part. But I'm probably ready to be something like that.
Shiv, you were going to say something about the next team when we were talking about Buckman. What were you going to say?
Yeah, I think that obviously Jay and Ryan are fantastic, and taking them 2-4 is not bad value. But I think if they had read the situation a little better, they would have seen that they could have got Jay in the third and Ryan in the fourth, and added Buckman in the second. And it's obviously not a knock on you, Yoni, because you're still obviously a good pick there. But they did let Brad go to sort of protect the Burkowski pick, and Elan Gelbart is a lot of things, but he's not a liar. When he tells you he's not going to do something, he doesn't do it. And I don't think he was going to take them at that turn. I think they wanted talk the whole way. That was sort of the guy they were locked in on. They just kind of like those versatile defenders that can kind of play in and out. So I think that was maybe a little bit of a miss. And then, I'm not saying it's a bad infield, but it feels like a slow infield, right? So you have, I guess, Harry, Patrizi, Plotkin, yourself, Geller. We'll see how it plays out. I think the outfield is going to be fantastic. He got some great guys out there with Burke and Jared and Dubo and Ephraim, etc. Yeah, we'll have to see.
So Mitch
got to make you guys run in the infield.
Mitch gave them a B. What are you putting yourself? What are you putting there?
I'm gonna go B minus.
B minus.
B minus for the miss in round 2.
All right. Let's move on to Greg. Greg and Kate's brand new captains.
Guys. Yeah.
Brand new captains. What do you think about their first ever draft?
So, yeah, interesting. Just little side piece of information for all the listeners out there. Our 2023 team, every player from that team, with the exception of Ethan, is either on my team or Greg's team. So I thought that was just an interesting little stat for you. Clearly, we missed each other after the last year's disaster of a squad we put out there. But anyway, I thought they did really well at the start. Obviously, like I said before, I think Darren is the best player in the league. So getting him at 1-4 is value. I think he does things that nobody else can do. I think he's dangerous in all aspects of the game. So I think huge for them to get a guy like Darren. Obviously, the one thing that people will talk about was sort of they kind of got themselves into a situation where I guess they were kind of missing that fifth outfielder when the 11th round came, and I guess they were expecting maybe Jesse Frankel or someone like that to be there, but he was taken earlier. So they're gonna do the Matthew Heis. Sorry, I'm butchering it. I said I would never do that again, but I can't remember which one it is. Anyway, Heis. So they're gonna give him. They're going to give him a run in right field. I think he can do it. And I think that in that situation, they probably did the right thing. So I think if you're going to look at the guys that were left, who could maybe give you some innings in right field, I think he's worth a shot. But obviously there's some risk there with the guy who's been, I guess, catching for the last few years. You got to roll him out there, and he'll need to play 5 innings of outfield every game. And obviously, if he's beside Darren, I think that helps because Darren just kind of is a vacuum, and he'll come over there. And if
isn't Darren in left center?
Yeah, fair. So maybe it won't be Darren, but they have Mark Singer in the middle as well. So I think it's a pretty good center field that they have. Um, but yeah, I guess that's the one thing I would say is a bit of an unknown sort of going into the season. But kudos to them. I was talking to Cates earlier. They're missing a couple guys tomorrow, and they made the decision to go 10 intentionally so that he could go out there and get 9 innings of reps, right? Because the only way he's going to get better or get the practice is to actually play. So rather than going out getting subs, being 12, sitting him twice, catching him twice, he's going to get to play a full 9 innings of outfield tomorrow. So we'll
Amazing.
see how it goes. The experiment begins.
Give me a grade.
Yeah, look, I think everybody's draft, with the exception of maybe one or two teams, to me was all pretty much in the same cluster. Uh, I'll put it again in that BB minus range. I just think maybe a slight miscalculation on what would be left at the end of the draft from outfielders to infielders, but I think overall they did a pretty good job. I know they went in wanting certain guys, and I've been there before. Been known to draft out of loyalty sometimes, so I get that. I can't criticize for that. So yeah, I'll sit them right in there with a B.
What about you, Mitch?
Like the rating or the sort of the summary?
Whatever you want.
Um, I think taking two infielders, three forwards was a mistake. You sort of have to figure out what's there later. Sorry, two, four, five. You needed an outfielder there. You sort of have to figure out. You sort of have to play it back in the draft. Um, the other thing is once they got to the 11, I think you sort of had to pivot and say, okay, there's no outfielder here. You have to throw Greg in the outfield and I think play Josh in short, and then just sort of take someone that could play a position. So I think that was a couple of mistakes they made, which I think is going to probably hurt their season a bit. But I mean, maybe Heath will figure it out, and it won't. But that's sort of how I see it. So I mean, for a rating for that, I'd probably give them I think probably like a C minus.
Very good. And now I'm going to move on to Shiv's team, and I'm going to let you start while you're on. Reunited, and it feels so good. Steve Shiv is back with the
Sir.
Benzers.
Yes, sir.
Back with the Benzers. Now, tell me a little bit about what you think about Shiv's draft.
I think it's a good draft. I think he's one of the teams that's going to compete. I don't really see any mistakes in that draft. I see a team that's going to compete. I mean, I told them earlier. I think he just has to make sure his outfield strong to me. But like, it's kind of nitpicking from that standpoint. But I think it could hold up. It's just a matter of let's see if it will hold up. But I think he just has a team that's going to compete, and he's probably the favorite right now going in on paper.
Wow. Big words coming from Fogel. What do you think, Shiv?
Okay. Yeah, I think it couldn't have really gone better. All of the things that we kind of wanted, sort of in some way, shape, or form, materialized. Obviously, there were guys that we missed on that we kind of had, but in every one of those instances, I think we came up with like an okay sort of a replacement. Excited to play. I'm playing with a lot of guys for the first time too, right? So yes, like back with the Benzers, obviously back with Bruce, but there's also quite a few guys that I've never had a chance to play with before. Is it Tony, Carletti? So I'm kind of looking forward to getting a chance to play with those guys. Elan Corsia, obviously I played with Elan, 20 something years ago. Haven't had the pleasure of playing with him since, and so I'm happy to be playing with Elan again. I think he's going to be a good versatile add to the team, and I think we got some grit too. Like Tony and Lino and Corsia. We're going to have some. I'm usually the nice team. I think we're going to have a little fire this year, perhaps.
Now, you decided to draft Fuchs again this year.
Hmm?
That was, I guess, shocking to some, but not shocking to others. Go through that little mindset and how was everyone on board for that draft pick?
Yeah, look, it's I don't think it was ever anything personal with Mitch Fuchs. I think it was just we played together for a couple years, and we were at some point I think potentially gonna maybe try to go a different way. Like I said, play with someone new. I think when the pick came up, it was the right play for us, and I think he was the right fit with this group. And I have to give a little shout out to Shane's AI model as well. So Shane put together a little model to try to, create like a wins above replacement metric for everybody in exec. One day, hopefully, he'll come on the podcast and walk you guys through it. It's quite the thing he built.
And
You're
sworn to secrecy, no? It was a
yeah,
swear,
I was,
swear
but
to
now
secrecy.
now it's out in the open. Yeah, now it's out in the open, and the model liked Mitch Fuchs, and Shane's a data guy. Shane trusts the data, but happy to have him back. I think he's happy to be on the team, and really at the end of the day, I like playing with guys that want to play with me. Like the Bensers, I always enjoy playing with. Fuchs, Bruce, like these are just guys that I feel like I'd play with every year. So,
Pogo, I'm only going to ask you for a grade for this team.
I'll say B plus.
B plus.
It's an A for me, Yoni. It's an A for me.
I know. That's what I didn't want to ask you. We're going to move on to Barth's team. Barth, as we said, rookie captain, took Rich with his first pick and his good friend Evan Frank with his second pick. Mitch, talk to me a little bit about the mindset going in. Was this what they were thinking they were going to do the whole way, or backup plan?
No, this was their original plan. I think they saw Fixman and they were interested, and but this was definitely their plan A, and then they were interested in Malley and Fixman, and then once they were taken, they went back to their plan A. So, like I know Barth, I think, wanted to play with Evan, and Evan wanted to play with Barth. I think they're all friends with Rich. I'm not totally sure, but that's sort of what I heard through the grapevine. And by the way, Evan Frank already knows about the podcast, and he's never been in the league. That's what I was told 3 minutes before the podcast. So the podcast transcends leagues.
Breaking news.
So,
yeah.
Shout out to Evan Frank. Welcome to your first ever podcast.
Yeah, and so yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited by the team. I'm excited for the fresh start. I think it's good guys. It's a good team. I'm happy to take a step back, not captain, and just sort of go with the flow.
I love it. I noticed though you have there's a little bit of a clusterfuck or whatever you want to call it at third base. What's going to happen over there at third base? You have Boucher, you have Kiki.
Well, Kiki's going to play util infield. Boucher play third, and that's pretty much it.
Boucher solid fielder. Like a lot of teams were looking.
Nice player.
A lot of teams had him on on their radar. My team included.
That was a good value pick, in my opinion, the Boucher pick.
Yeah, he was definitely on the radar, and who knows if he was available at that round later on. Like maybe he'd be on my team. I don't know, but he was definitely on the radar as he had a great showing in his first year. His future brother-in-law, Brian Bloomer, had an opportunity to make it onto the team, but what happened?
He did not want to catch, which it's up to him. I respect his decision, but once he hesitated, it was just like, okay, we'll just don't want to have to deal with someone who doesn't want to play position. So that was his decision. We listened to it, and then that was it.
Okay. Let's give a grade just quickly for Barth, both Shiv, and then
I'm giving an A. So
of course,
I'm gonna scale that down one to the B plus. But Mitch, you can't say I'm the favorite on paper and give me a B plus and give your own team an A.
Yeah, well, favorite always after your own team.
Okay, fair enough. B plus for me, Yoni.
All right, perfect. We're moving on to Hirsch's team. Hirsch, who is the winner of I don't want to say the winner, but got Portnoy, got the Portnoy sweepstakes. I don't want to say the winner, but I happen to love Portnoy. I won my only exec championship with Portnoy. I think he's a great player, great pitcher. So listen, it was a good trade for both sides. Tell me a little bit about Hirsch's draft.
Go ahead. All yours.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, I think after weeks and months of back and forth and will they be together, will they not be together, I was happy that Hirsch and Selleck ended up with Cam and Maislin. Obviously they really wanted that to happen, and sort of the way the draft board worked out, it didn't look like it was going to happen, but then sort of at the last minute things kind of fell into place for them, so I'm happy that all worked out. In terms of their draft, I think it's another Hirsch Selleck draft. Like they always draft competitive teams. I think they do a good job. Who am I to second guess their picks? These guys make more appearances in the finals, I think, than anybody. So I don't really have any criticism of their draft. I think they like a certain type of player and they like a certain type of character in the guys. They like to, they want to have a team vibe and bond with the guys. And I think they'll be competitive like they always are. They're a good team.
Yeah, but when you look at their center field is nice. Is a nice
Cam and
depth.
Hirsch is
Hirsch and
fantastic,
Cam.
and you have Selleck at short, so very strong up the middle defensively for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then Bram, who I hear wants to play infield this year.
Yeah.
Where do you see him playing?
I think they'll give him a run, but who knows? Yeah, second. Yeah.
Okay.
I assume he's going to play second. I think they would try and. I saw them at BP trying Crane at third, Primo at third. So I guess we're going to see what they have and try to figure it out.
And I'm assuming they're going to try to get Crane to play a little bit of the outfield.
Possibly. Or third base, maybe a few innings, some first base. Who knows?
Well, I guess they may have Lester Maisland, Cam Hirsch. Yeah, and they'll need somebody else there. Maybe
I'll say this. I think Bram is one of the two guys that I think, to me, fell a little more than they probably should have. I think, Bram is a top 3 hitter in the league up there with
4 last year, and I think it was all based on his want to play on the infield.
Yeah, for me, like him and Bobby Titleman, and I guess we'll get to Bobby later. Those are the two guys that I felt should have gone earlier. There was a world where I saw Bram sort of going at the 2-3 turn, and it didn't go that way. And Bobby to me in the 6th round makes absolutely no sense. But we haven't reached that team yet, so we can talk about that later.
I just think taking a guy who doesn't play center field is
for sure
that early. There's clearly a lack of outfielders. We know there's not really many shortstops, but you sort of see like once Gal sort of took that situation, you sort of had to jump a bit earlier. So
yeah, that's right.
I kind of see why Bram would fall. I think if Bram said he would play outfield, he would have gone probably around there, even if it was just like corner outfield to back up center field. But
certainly
it's hard to take a non-premier position that early.
Guys, throw me out a quick grade for Hirsch's draft.
Say B minus.
B for me.
And would you say
B minus?
B minus and B for Shiv. Moving on to the last team, who I think drafted a hell of a team. It's a scary team on paper. I don't know 2 of the guys because I wasn't part of the evals or whatever it was, but I hear good things about them. Tell me a little bit about Epstein's draft.
I think it's a good draft. I don't see any mistakes there. I think Jim B is going to be good. I think Gross is the right pick there. Like even us were saying it was going to be Gross or Jesse Frankel because we knew Epstein was going to take the other one. So Bobby is a 6th is a steal. I sort of went up to him after he got drafted, and I said, "I'm not sure how I went ahead of you, but
we would have loved him on our team, except we were very short outfielders, and if we didn't take Frank Siegel there, then we wouldn't have been able to have a decent outfielder as a third outfielder." So
I think he probably went lower just because people took outfielders, and I think there's more third basemen in the league, but he's a elite third baseman. He's an elite person, and he's like an elite hitter. So it's definitely a great pick there. So they'll be happy with him. And I texted him the next day that I'm going to miss him playing with him, and I definitely will. So he has a good team. Emil's my guy. I think Shiv and I have spoken about Emil. We think he's really going to be probably top 1 this year. I think we're sort of on that same page. So that'll make the step. So I think it's a good team, and it's definitely a team that'll compete.
Yeah, for me, Yoni, like, and I'll pull the Fogel here. I'll exclude my team from because we're always gonna say we have the best team. That's just who we are. For me, this team on paper is probably the top. I just think like the 2 things Fogel said. I think Emil year 1 was fantastic. This guy hadn't basically never played softball in his life. Like he's 20 something years old. Like he's only going to get better. I think he'll be
baseball. That's
what I mean, right? So I think next year this guy's probably going in the first 3-4 picks of the draft. So I think they got good value there. And then, to echo Mitch, like Bobby, I think is the best defensive third baseman in the league. I think he's a fantastic hitter. And to Mitch's point, he's an even better human being. So steal for them in the 6th round. I think this team, like top to bottom, is just there's not a lot of weaknesses. There's obviously a couple of unknowns, right? So they do have Jim and and Grosh. But I from what I saw at the eval, I think both of these guys are gonna, he doesn't need them to be elite. He just needs them to sort of play in the round he drafted them in, and I think they'll return that value for him.
Guys, we have about 3 minutes left. I have to let on a guest. Before I let on the guest, just give me a quick grade, Mitch, for Epstein's team.
I'll go B+.
Shiv?
It's an A for me.
All right. And we're going to let on our guest for the last few minutes of the show. Hang on and buckle up for our first guest.
Oh, baby.
Boom, boom. Boom, boom, retired. First of all, we want to give him, you have to unmute yourself. We want to give him a pleasant retirement. Obviously, you didn't go out the way you wanted to go. We're definitely going to miss you in the league and your character in the league. Give us talk to us about your decision.
I don't think I'm a catcher at this point in my career yet. That was my decision. Mitchell called me. I thought he was actually calling me to tell me that Crestall died, but he called me, asked me if I wanted to catch. Barther's with him. I said, you know what? He saw I was hesitant on the phone, and he said thank you and hung up. So I guess he didn't take me. That would also let me play with my brother-in-law, Gabe Boucher. And then about a couple minutes later, Epstein messaged me. He goes, you're on my team. I said, okay, I guess I'm going to be catching for you also with Howdy Doody Mitchell White playing at first base. So that was, I said I have to think about that a little bit when seeing another guy, Matthew Heath, being picked in the 11th round for some reason. And I'm the first pick of the 12th round, and Mitchell and I don't see eye to eye. So I said, let me think about that for a little bit. And I thought about it for about 24 hours. And I said, you know what? You never mentioned to me first base. You never mentioned to me maybe playing, stick me in right field, and maybe I prove I'm Larry Walker like Matt Heights might be. So I said, you know what? I can't do this anymore. I'm not putting myself in the same category as the 12s. And even though the tiers don't have me as that, I just can't catch 5-6 innings a game.
For the record, I don't think you're a 12. And what you didn't know at the day of the draft is that you were actually traded in the 9th round before it even got to you. There was a trade that you were going to end up on a team, but you were traded for one team not to pick somebody. We didn't know it was going to be you, but it ended up being you in that trade.
Right. Yeah, you mentioned that to me.
Yeah. Anyway,
Look,
I just want you to know that we're going to miss you. We hope that you come around the field. We hope that we get to see you. And this is not just we're not going to see you the whole time.
I just hope that you guys realize my stand on this. I had some demands. I found this guy, Jim Benedict, who actually called the Aquatic Center looking to play softball. I could have given him Steve Kaminsky's number, but I gave him Shiv's number, and he turned out to be mid-round pick. I brought in Gabe Boucher, and everything like that. And now
we have about 5 seconds left. I just want to let the viewers know that we will be doing these podcasts bi-weekly. For those of you that are 12s mentally, that's every.
Yeah, I'm going to be first base this year. Oh, Jesus Christ. Everything that gets hit to him is like not good. Bouncing, bad hops right at the lip. Oh, yeah. Ooh, wonders with the scouting report. Oh, still alive, still alive. Well, Wayne with the changeup. Good throw. Oh yeah, that's a good one. Oh. No, it's all right. You have to make the play. It was Oh, all right. I'm up. Good job.